Hi, you guys, where I left off in your life, it's basically here. But I couldn't save at the end because of the ending, but I wanted to come back and play this again because I haven't played it in a while. It's been a couple minutes, a couple hours, a long time. So I got some DLCs or some packs, and let's get into it. I don't have the new pack, I'm getting that. I will be getting that. But let's get into some your life, okay? Let's get into some your life. And after my just let's get into some your life.
The scene. Then, suddenly, the day had ended, and you were drifting off to sleep in Cove's arms.
Of course we were. Of course we are.
Then, before you could progress any further, you needed to cross one of the most important details off the list. Despite the nervous energy fluttering in your stomach, you were already anticipating the phone call planned.
Are you
Cove,
okay?
are you doing all right? Self-voicing, Cove turned away while his eyebrows pinched together. His grip, Cove, tense, but good.
Okay.
Better, Devinv. Yeah, me too.
I love this.
I can't wait to see their reactions. Every time you imagined the conversation you'd have today, it boiled down to the same feeling, joy.
Too. Yeah. I even made my special. I even made me slightly smile for this, okay? I even made myself slightly smile for this. Hold on. I even smiled for this. So let's get into it.
Every Cove would be asking his mom, and you just couldn't wait to see how she'd take the news.
Okay.
With a determined stare, Cove pulled his phone out and plugged Baxter's office into the GPS map. While Cove drove, you pulled your own phone out and scrolled through your contacts list. The job would have to be done long distance. Staring at Kyra's name, you hoped that she wasn't too busy. Kyra, hello Devinv and hello baby.
Did she really just say hello, Devin, hello, baby? Okay.
Devinv, hi, Mom 3.
Huh?
Cove, hi, Mom. How'd you know I was here? Kyra, when are you ever far from Devinv, especially with what's been happening lately? Cove, yeah. Kyra, how are my best kids doing?
Good, Kyra, good to see. I love this because the last time I logged off or disappeared, it was basically what the ending, but not telling us the truth, the narrating.
Cove, good. Really good. Devinv and I actually have something that we wanted to ask you. Kyra, oh. I'm not wanting to lose the nerve he'd built up. Cove simply blurted the question. Cove, would you walk me down the aisle? Kyra, There were a few moments of complete shock. Kyra, yes, yes, yes. Cove's heavy sigh of relief was followed directly after by a tearful sniffle.
Hey.
I'm
Cove,
so glad.
Thanks, Mom. Devinv, MHM, thank you so much. Kyra, hey, that's what I'm here for. Cove, yeah. We have to.
Makes
Kyra,
sense.
good luck, my babies, and take care. I'll see you both again soon.
See you, 80s.
Devinv, thanks again.
Her hairstyle
Bye.
literally reminds me of the 80s, even though I'm born in 2002.
Cove, bye. Cove was elated when you ended the call. One more
All right.
Cove, okay, let's hurry to Baxter's office. Devinv, right. A new day and another visit to your new wedding
19th
planner came
century,
down the rushing
2000.
river that was your life at this. You, Cove, and Baxter were each settled into the same spots at the appointment prior.
Good
Baxter,
afternoon.
good afternoon to you both. I couldn't be more. You gave a firm nod. I could take it or leave it, yes. All you did was shrug. You bet your butt. Cove stutteringly giggled over the conversation.
Me
Cove,
too.
me too. Baxter, well. He pulled out his pen while crossing his legs. Baxter, our company has its own in-house photographer for your event. Cove, we definitely need at least a cake. Baxter coyly grinned at the abrupt interruption. Baxter, I'm sure you'll get your treat, then. Along, Baxter, and you'll naturally need to decide where the ceremony and reception will. Baxter, if you're feeling unprepared to make a call on any of that now, we could always start with the dance lessons for. Baxter, what are you feeling? Cove, knowing where the wedding is gonna be. Cove tilted his head back. Baxter, Devinv, any thoughts for your. We could decide the venues now. How about we pick a caterer? Let's design a cake. Could we go clothing shopping? Why don't you begin the dance sessions, Cove? Baxter,
Exciting.
oh. You. Baxter gestured down to the other door in the space. Baxter, there's a room here in the building you can use for dance lesson. Baxter, I'll need to schedule it, of course. Baxter. He pulled out his phone and he tapped something with a flourish and looked up with a. Baxter, Cove and I can do it in the afternoon. Baxter, I can get everything arranged to. Cove nodded seriously. Cove, let's do it. Devinv. Yeah. I'm excited.
Cute.
Devinv. You're gonna have some fancy footwork, Cove. Baxter placed the phone down to. Baxter,
Excellent.
and he did. He planned each detail out exactly. Baxter, what kind of music are you Baxter, would you rather go with something fast or something slow? Baxter, a recent wedding I helped with went with classical music for the first half and then early 2010s dance music. Cove shrugged and left space for you to answer. I'd like classical music. I would want love songs to dance to. I like countries. My preference would be jazz. I'd enjoy theatrical music. Can we have pop music? It'd be cool to have throwbacks from. I think it'd be cool to have throwbacks from when we were growing up. Could we keep to traditional wedding music? I think it'd be fun to use video game soundtracks. I want alternative music. It'd be cool to have throwback. There were a lot of nostalgic songs that were already coming to your mind. Baxter nodded approvingly. Cove was even more supportive of your recommend. Cove, cool. I think I can guess some of the songs you're hoping for.
Absolutely.
Baxter, of course. And after continuing to discuss music selections for a while, goodbyes were said. The hours passed by quickly. It felt like a blink by.
I
A
start
bit
with the
after
dancing
lunch,
lessons first
you drove
because
Cove
you
over to
called
his
me
first
learn how
solo
to
dance
before
lesson
you
with
even go.
Baxter. He was definitely nervous. Despite his usual anxiousness, he insisted that he wanted to do the lesson on his own. You wished Cove luck and dropped him off, hoping. The plan was to run errands until it was close enough. Unfortunately, the store didn't have a good. You debated buying something in order to not. You bought chips, you bought a chocolate, you bought a box of sugary, you bought a box of healthy fruit snap, you bought pre-portioned packages of cheese and jerky. You left the store without buying anything. You bought chips, you bought a chocolate bar. You plucked a bar off the shelf and bought it. Another store that you. When the time came, Cove greeted you with a smile. Devinv, tell me everything. Cove shifted in his seat while rubbing the back of
That's
his
what
neck.
I paid.
Cove, it was awkward, as you probably guessed, but not that bad. He brightened as he Cove, Baxter is kind of a good guy. You pulled out from in. What did you talk about? That's great. You nodded quiet. What did you talk about with all your. That, you. Then you finally got on the high. You couldn't wait to continue ahead. When you arrived for your session that day, you noticed Baxter's foot was tapping again. Devinv, sup. Cove, hi.
Good
Baxter,
afternoon.
good afternoon. Baxter, Now, we can keep going over the step. Baxter, what shall we be doing today? I really think we should do venues now. How about we just pick a caterer? Let's design a cake now. How about we just... Baxter nodded his head, confirming that he'd registered your choice.
Yeah!
Cove, good idea. His open enthusiasm tickled you, eliciting an adoring chuckle that slipped out. Meanwhile, Cove seemed oblivious to your amusement. What you needed now was for someone to turn those dreams into reality. The agency had worked with together. Baxter had a wealth of handy tips of what. The three of you whittled away the options until you finally settled on the one you wanted. With that decided, Baxter contacted them to arrange. He easily secured a time that worked. That brought you to the end of the meeting, the decision of which bakery to choose. The three of you rose from your seats one after.
Goodbye
Baxter,
for today.
It's been great. Cove, yeah. I can't believe next time we see you we'll have our wedding cake picked out. Devinv, yeah. Cove's face fell. Devinv, kidding. Baxter, of course. Baxter, though I won't be there in person, you can always text me if you want advice during the process. Thank you. We'll manage. I'm not sure I trust your taste. I appreciate that. Oh, I'm pretty sure Cove's going to be on top of this. You nodded along. It was reassuring to know that Baxter would be able to guide you if you got stuck. Baxter, He waved goodbye as you and Cove. The light tinkling of a bell over the door announced your arrival as you and Cove stepped inside. The bakery was a delight for the senses. Cove closed his eyes and inhaled deeply. The display case was full of the select. Usually, those kinds of treats would be everything you needed, but you could tell Cove shared your feelings. He waited beside you with every outward appearance of patience, but you could tell his anticipation by the way he kept a close watch on the kitchen door as you waited for an employee to come greet you. This uncharacteristic restraint was a stark contrast to any other time he'd visited a bakery. As he shifted from one foot to the other, you knew that he was fighting to hold back those usual urges. Luckily, his self-control wasn't tested for long. As they approached, Xavier walked right up. Xavier, hello. Cove, hi. Cove paused. Cove, we're Cove and Devinv. His voice, when he resumed, Cove, it's to plan our wedding. What he said. We're so glad to be here. Thank you for making time for us. Xavier's eyes lit up at the introduction. Xavier, of course. Welcome Devinv and Cove, our Cove preened. Xavier, I'm Xavier, the head cake artist here. Xavier, you can take some seats right there. They gestured to a nearby. You were real. It hadn't, but knowing that you weren't alone in feeling that way comforted you. The baker had taken a detour over to Xavier. I went over the info. Xavier, so let's get to it.
Maybe.
Cove tilted his head to the side. Would just one be alright? 2 sounds perfect. 3 would be wonderful. Would 4 be okay? If they can do 5 then let's. 2. Cove, cool. Seeing as you'd reached a conclusion, Xavier, a 2-tier cake it is. They glanced up from the Xavier, in terms of decorating. Cove pursed his lips, stumped by the question. Though you'd reviewed ideas for decoration, you took it from there. Traditional, rustic, floral, modern, elegant, beachy, simplistic, unusual, whatever you think. Beachy. Cove sighed, relieved, and expressed his approval.
Right.
Cove, yeah, that. Xavier, we can work with that for sure. Xavier, any color ranges, again. Even though it was just the 3 of you and he, as entertaining as that was.
Hair.
Classic white, dark shades, pastel, bright tones, earth shades, mostly white with rainbow, muted tones, bright, mostly white with color pops. Earth shades. Xavier, got it? And what's one color you really want? Red, black, brown, orange, yellow, gray, tan, green, gold, blue, silver. purple, gold.
It's a wedding. Let's go gold.
Xavier, nice. Xavier, right.
Like,
So we're going for a
his
2-tier
skin.
gold cake that's beachy. You could picture it now. Devin, yep, that Cove, who was staring at you like you'd saved him from a life or death situation. Xavier watched you both with a smile. Xavier, this cake is really shaping up. Xavier, time for the fun part. They got up and made Cove, the fun part. Cove echoed the words, craning his neck. Xavier, careful, coming through. They lowered. Xavier lifted the cover to reveal several plates of little cakes, the beautiful array of colors, and Cove gaped, loud by the revelation.
Oh!
Cove, Xavier giggled at Cove. Xavier, you do. They pointed. Xavier, they moved over to Xavier. There's vanilla, chocolate, strawberry, maple, and mocha buttercream. Over here we've got chocolate Y and fruity fillings. Though the inside can simply contain more frosting, if you'd prefer. Having talked you through the Xavier, as they talked, they took out 2 copies of the order sheet and presented you with one each. Xavier, that's everything. Cove's eyes sparkled with and he picked up the fork provided and you chuckled softly. Though Cove was evidently intent on eating a bit of everything, you noted that he was careful to leave at least half of each. You started trying everything. You only wanted to try the ones which looked most appealing. You only wanted to do one small tasting. You didn't eat any of it. You surveyed the Cove nodded at you encouragingly. He was equally excited to hear that. You were so enraptured that you nearly forgot that you weren't alone with Cove. The baker stood by approval. You held up your fork to feed a piece to you gestured to Cove. Cove spotted the poised fork in front of him. Even now, it was criminally easy to make him embarrassed.
Yes.
You brought the fork to his lips, and he happily ate the treat. Cove, thanks. He held up his own fork, where the bite he'd been about to take was waiting. Cove, would you like?
He
trailed off shyly.
Get to, like, the decorations, the cake, and the wedding.
You leaned in to be fed. You passed. Cove's eyes glittered, happy to reciprocate. Cove shimmied happily in his seat. Cove, they're all so good. He cracked a grin. Cove, hey, could we get a tier for every flavor? Xavier laughed. Xavier, unfortunately we can't. Cove, yeah. It's okay. We're definitely ready to get our own cake. I have no idea how we're gonna choose with so many great it's okay, Cove. We can always get cakes for our anniversaries in the future. You shook your head at Cove's antics. You nodded in agreement. You shook your head. It would be nice to taste the suggestion. Now that you'd had a taste of the bakery's cake, Xavier, we can do the cake all in one flavor. I think one flavor for the having different flavors for the tiers sounds fun. Cove, yeah, Cove lifted himself. Cove, so, what's your thoughts? You picked up the copy of the form to review the simple and vanilla, chocolatey, fruity. Something that people probably I just don't know. Fruity, chocolatey. Cove, okay. He rested his Cove, what about something like a marbled cake with milk chocolate ganache on the That sounds wonderful. That's really nice. That's an option. That, Cove straightened up at your words of approval. Xavier, I'm good with that. Thinking. White vanilla cake, almond cake, mango cake, chocolate, vanilla chocolate, coconut cake, lemon cake, matcha cake, spice, red velvet, lemon cake, vanilla chocolate marble cake. For the frosting, vanilla, orange, ube, straw, white chocolate, orange, strawberry, white chocolate. When it came to the more of the buttercream custard, whipped cream, more buttercream in it, preserves, whipped cream, custard, whipped cream, more buttercream in a different custard. That was milk chocolate, that was white chocolate flavored. That was dark chocolate flavored. Cove, who'd been nodding along with your suggestions, recapped the idea. Cove, so, you're thinking of a vanilla chocolate marble cake with white chocolate frosting and dark chocolate flavored custard on the inside? Devinv, you got it?
Sounds
Cove,
good.
it sounds really good to me.
Cake, so, that's it.
Then your mouth-watering cake. Xavier, the inside of the cake is great. Cove shrugged. Just buttercream. Buttercream covered in fondant. Buttercream covered in ganache. Just buttercream. They scribbled that down in. Xavier, finally, what elements would you like me to include in the design? A bride and groom cake top, chocolate-made decorations, edible paint, fresh flowers, meringue detailing, edible pearls, ribbons around the tiers. I don't think sugar-made ribbons around, and that, edible pearls, sugar, fresh flowers, royal icing piping, edible paint, a bride and groom cake topper, fresh flower, sugar-made, chocolate-made decorations, a bride and groom cake topper, meringue detailing, a bride and groom cake top, sugar-made decorations, fresh flowers, edible paint, and that's everything. Cove, extra fancy, that works for me. Xavier, awesome, we've got ourselves a cake plan. The baker's words made it would be featured in photographs and shared. You glanced at Cove out of the corner of your eye. As Xavier continued speaking, you pulled yourself back to the present. Xavier, I'll take all the info you've given us today and use it to think up the finished design. Xavier, though, before you go, are you wanting any other dessert on the side? Xavier, we could have cookies. Can you do ice cream? Are wedding pretzels a thing? Do you make fudge? We could have cupcake. Can you do ice? Are cinnamon rolls doable? I think just the cake will be. Cove's eyes grew wide at your suggestion, Xavier, unexpected but not impossible. Cove beamed with delight.
So Cove,
the three of you talked over the details of. Xavier skillfully guided you through it all to determine everything from your preferences for flavor and texture to the quantity you. Xavier reviewed their notes in the binder.
Because having fudge for Cove so he could stop the.
Xavier, so, you're getting a two-tier cake with a beachy kind of feel that's multi-flavored? Xavier, and you're also getting some fudge along with it? Your heart fluttered as you imagined the cake once again, you and Cove standing over it and ready to. The side dessert beautifully complemented the cake. Devinv, yeah, those are our desserts. Cove bounced in his chair again. Cove, this is gonna be so good. Xavier grinned, pleased to see the two of you so happy. Xavier, thanks again for coming to us for. You worked through the outstanding specific. Once the final arrangements had been confirmed, you left the bakery feeling. As per usual, a few light-hearted words were engaged as Baxter watched the two of.
So?
Baxter, I take it the cake designing went well. Like a child who was excited to show their latest work. Cove, it's gonna be Baxter, I'm so pleased to hear that. Baxter, what shall we be doing today? I really think we should do venues now. How about we just pick a caterer? Baxter,
Absolutely.
Cove gulped.
All right.
Cove, his eyes met yours as he. Cove, you sat up straight. Devinv, here we go. Baxter, naturally, there are also plenty of commercial locations which can easily host a full-sized after-party for your reception. His mouth twitched into a sly smile. Baxter, or, if you'd prefer something outdoors, there's always. He chuckled, full. Baxter, you could go for a spot that can host both parts of the wedding, so it's entirely in one location. Baxter, it's entirely up to you. He held up a hand, stopping himself mid-flow, but continuing to smile wryly. Baxter, but I don't wish to get carried away in a preamble. He leaned in. Can we figure out where the ceremony will be? Can we talk more about reception options? It doesn't matter to me. I want to know what Cove would prefer. Cove, oh, then, if nobody cares, I'd like to talk about the location. Cove bit his lip as he would. Cove, Baxter, he relaxed back.
I can do that.
Baxter tapped away at his screen, pulling up. While he was partially preoccupied with that, he rattled off the specific kinds of locations you could use.
So,
Baxter, there's the beach, as always, or perhaps a different outdoor spot. Cove's eyes darted over to Baxter and back to you as he spoke up Cove, so we're allowed to mention our own ideas for Baxter nodded amiably.
certainly.
Baxter, Cove,
well,
he was looking down at his shoes as Cove, there's the Poppy Hill? You grinned back at Cove. It made sense given its starring role in yours and Cove's shared story. Cove, I told you about it, it's where we got engaged. He swallowed. Cove, and, it's also where we first met.
That's
Baxter, that's sweet. He tilted his head away and closed his eyes. Baxter, I remember seeing it when I was there. Cove's gaze was Baxter, it's rather small and round. Cove deflated, his shoulders. Baxter, if you don't mind your guests having to stand. Cove, it could be worse. The confidence had been then he checked over to you. Cove, we don't have to do it there. Baxter, if it's poppies you want, there is another option. Baxter,
Does that sound alright?
I know of a bigger, flatter field of those flowers in the sunset. Cove tilted his head as he peered at the phone.
Oh?
Cove, oh. It did sound like it might be quite a stunning location. Baxter, good to hear. Then Cove jolted in his seat. Cove, are people allowed to have weddings or whatever in redwood forests? Cove, even though it's kind of further away, he drew his feet in close to the Cove, we've made some special memories there. Baxter nodded surely. Baxter, it is an option for certain spots. Cove grinned. Baxter spread his hands wide. Baxter,
Wow.
Those are the ideas, it sounds like. The beach, the historical church, the poppy field outside town, the redwood forest. Actually, I already know the one I'd want. The beach, the poppy hill, the poppy field outside town, the historical the redwood forest, the historical the poppy hill, the poppy field outside, the poppy hill behind my house. The Cove's eyebrows rose in response to Cove, the poppy field. His wavy brows relaxed. Cove, I would love that. It'd be perfect for the two of us. Your body tried to get Devin. We're going to have a Baxter,
Exciting.
that's exciting. He smiled indulgently,
Because that's
like
where
a
we all
teacher
met.
allowing the class a
It gave
moment
us
of
all
levity.
nostalgia,
Baxter,
where we all hang
before
out
you
at.
get fully carried away, there's still the reception location to consider. Baxter, there's also a large room in a historic mansion that could host the reception. Baxter, a rather new option is. Cove's jaw dropped.
seriously?
Baxter, really? It'd be in the main display room, with, his mouth continued. As such, the news had temporarily, all at once, he blinked rapidly, closing his mouth in. The aquarium was certainly an option to keep.
Of course.
Baxter, or, if you wanted something outdoors, there's always the beach, of course. Baxter, and even though you didn't want to use the redwood forest for your ceremony, it could also work for a reception. Baxter, like before. Cove, he pursed his. Cove, what about that country club your mom's? He snapped.
Right.
Cove, they had their anniversary dinner. He closed his eyes. Baxter, yes, the Cypress. You nodded.
It's
Baxter,
doable.
they would absolutely be able to host your reception, especially since your family are already members. Cove beamed. Cove, Baxter, I agree. Baxter leaned in.
What do
Baxter,
you think?
what's holding the most interest for you right now? The beach, the aquarium, the historic mansion, the redwood forest, the event hall, the Cypress Country Club. You saw Baxter pause. In that moment, you could read his mind. Still, for the sake of what must be his normal protocol, he pulled up a picture of the local shore for you. Cove, I love it. You don't say. What? Me too. You nodded. You shrugged. Me. It was wonderful how you shared this love of the beach. Cove glanced down demurely as he scratched his cheek. Cove, you spent so many days there growing up in Sunset Bird, and so many of those were with me. Baxter smirked. Baxter, if you went with this spot, it wouldn't be the first little party I've had with you on the shore. Cove, oh yeah. Cove smiled nostalgically as that memory came back to
I
Cove,
remember.
we got together with pretty much everyone and hung out all. Baxter, it was. You not. Good times. I'll always remember that day. It would be wonderful. Baxter's smirk mellowed into an easy smile as the diversion came to a. I feel like that's going to work. Okay, let's talk about Cove, the beach for our reception. His voice lilted, rather, it was as though he was contemplating the feel of the words on his tongue. Cove broke into a grin. Cove, I think you're right. You let out a sigh of satisfaction. You'd already begun visualizing your reception there and known it, your energy was mounting. The excitement radiated off you and onto Cove. Sensing that his audience was becoming, Baxter, a ceremony at the poppy field. Looking thoughtful, he tilted his hand as
Perfect.
Baxter. Cove spun to face you, his eye. You'd got your. You felt every thump of. You knew where. You seized Cove's hand. You looked back at Cove. You reached over for a sidelong hug. You put a hand on Cove's shoulder. You seized Cove's hand. Your finger. His expertise had helped you and Cove enormously. Cove, gazing into his eyes, reviewing the. He would now need to reach out. Goodbyes followed. It was a great. You and Cove arrived at Baxter's office on the dot of the allotted time. After having settled down as the process had gone on, Cove's greetings were exchanged. Baxter, how about we just pick a caterer? I'd want to settle on our clothes for the day. Baxter,
Wow.
I can imagine you. Baxter, I recall that you both were planning on getting your outfits together. Baxter, is it a couples only time, or are. Cove, I want my dad to come.
I mean...
Cove, I know. Cove shrugged weakly. Cove, it'll be nice for Mom to see it.
Of course.
Baxter, of course. You felt for Cove. Teleporters would make life so much easier. Maybe you could send your mom pictures. That'll for sure be a fun surprise for. Maybe, that'll for sure. Tell Cove, yeah. Even though it would have been nice for. Cove, do you mind my dad coming along? I was hoping it could be something special between just you. It'd be great to have him there. Whatever makes you happy. A small.
Thanks.
Cove, oh. Cove, I'll give Dad the heads up. Devinv, that's great. Can I tell my. It'll be father bonding time. I'm sure we'll all have a good time. It'll be father bonding time. Can I tell my moms that they can come too? Cove, he scratched the back of. Cove, I don't know anything about wedding clothes. With that, Baxter, but, before you run off on that next outing, it would be best to choose where you're going. Baxter, do you have a preference on which store or stores you. Baxter, there is also a shop that focuses on suits, pantsuits.
I guess.
Cove,
What
Baxter,
do you think?
and you, Devinv. I want to get my outfit at the boutique. I'm interested in the suit shop too. I want to visit both to be sure.
Sounds
Cove,
good.
let's go to the boutique first. It felt like an Cove,
Lovely.
Baxter, lovely. You make this so easy for me.
Of course.
Baxter said, Baxter, I'll leave the rest up to you, and I'll see you both during our next session. Good luck. His smile was curled but bright. Cove, thanks. Cove's voice was nervous as he. Bye. See you next time, Bax. Thank you. We appreciate you making this easy for us. Toodaloo. You waved good. Thank you. Time passed from your meeting. The time came, there was a pit stop at the old neighborhood. Cliff clambered into the back seat. The three of you had a nice drive. The conversation slowly.
Come
Cove's
on.
dad, Cove, you can always borrow my shark tie if you want. Cove affectionate. Cove, I think I'll be okay, Dad. Cove's dad, I completely understand. Up ahead, you entered the boutique and took in the view. The first thing you noticed was how warmly lit the shop was. It was fanciful, like a fairy tale play. In the air, there was. Cove scratched at his cheek, his wide eyes searched. Cliff had a matching expression to his son. He clasped his hands behind. A woman with an official stylist, Devinv. You got it? Cove, yeah. Cove, Devinv is the one who's looking for something to wear for our. Gabrielle, thank you for coming. Gabrielle, we'll do everything we can to find you your dream look. She grinned bright. Gabrielle, one sec before you settle in, let, you obliged. Gabrielle, Cliff sat down first. Auto forward. Cove took the place. Gabrielle flipped over her Gabrielle. From Cove's dad's corners. Cove's dad, that's a lot of questions. Cove's dad, I had no idea that there were so many things you could ask about one outfit. Gabrielle, I know it's a lot to think of. Devinv, cool.
It's
Cove,
okay.
you felt. The stylist handed the questionnaire over to you and the type of a romper, a shirt and skirt, a dress, a romper, a shirt and skirt, a dress, a shirt, that was in a traditional shade, in a non-traditional shade, in white, off-white, cream, pearl, ivory, champagne. With what kind of garb? You went down the list. Modern, traditional, fusion, modern, fusion, texture, shiny cloth, matte cloth, textured cloth, matte cloth, shiny cloth, textured cloth, flowy, well-fitting, flowy, fitted shirt and a flowy skirt, fitted well-fitting, flowy, beaded, laced, no detailing, beading and laced, beaded, floor length, ankle length, knee length, ankle length, floor. Finally, you handed the binder back. Gabrielle, you let your fingers lace the distinct chic. It was the right color, seeing all the elements.
It's nice.
Gabrielle, it's good. Can I? It's good. Can I go through everything again? It's good. This is it. It's good. While Gabrielle, she took the top, a dress, a romper, a shirt and skirt, a romper, in a traditional shade, in a non-specific, red, black, orange, gold, green. You went modern, traditional, fusion, modern, matte cloth, textured, shiny cloth, matte cloth, flowy, beaded, laced, long sleeved, short sleeved, 3/4S length, sleeveless, short sleeved, sleeve, floor length, ankle length, knee length, ankle length, floor length, knee length, ankle length, knee length. Finally, you handed the bind. Gabrielle, I'm on it. The distinct, she carried, it was, seeing all the elements. Cove's eyes grew wide, he was speechless. Cove's dad, wow, that's a dress. Gabrielle, what do you think? This is it. Your stylist lit up at your approval. She held the dress close. Gabrielle, then you should put it on. You stole, unlike before. The stylist walked you to the change. She hung the dress on a. Gabrielle, now, before I give you some privacy, would you like me to grab any accessories to complete the look? A veil, earrings, a jacket, An anklet. A shawl. A train. A bracelet. No. A jacket. A veil. A bracelet. That's everything. A train. A veil. A bracelet. You closed the curtain, you slipped into, you inspected, you slid the thick cloth partition. Gabrielle walked up and in the mirror, the day you were planning for looked back at you. You were so excited, you were nervous, you were content. You felt like jumping, you nodded. Cove's dad, hey, where did this movie star come from?
You looking at that? From the good dude.
Cliff elbowed his son with a smile. Cove held his hands weren't able to contain the tears that dribbled from you. Twisted around. Look, it was the right choice. You faced Cove once more. Devinv, I'm ready to help. Cove sniffled and wiped his eyes. He stayed back just enough so that your wedding dress.
All right.
Cove, I'm ready. You went back to talk. Gabrielle took more of your measurements. It didn't take long to wrap everything up. With your dress settled, you moved on to the suit shop for Cove to start. After a short, the floors were slick and shiny. It was unsurprisingly well lit, showing off all the strikingly. You shivered a little at the temperature, but it was appropriate for the heavy formal wear custom. Cove had made his way to the center of the room and then, he was clearly intimidated by not only the large amount. Cove's dad rubbed the back of his. Cove's dad, now I remember why I've never owned a full suit in my entire life. A man in a pressed gray suit and Thole. Cove, you stood at his side. Thole perked up. Thole, of course. I'd be thrilled to work together. Thole,
maybe.
Cove. Cove glanced back at you, lost and unsure. Thole. Cove, that'd be good. The two men chatted. Ultimately, Cove was torn between. You spoke up to say, I like the black ones, but the shirt could be a different color. I like the white ones with the white shirt. I like the white pants, it's okay. I like the black ones, but, Cove, the shirt is good, green would be a good choice for, and the pants work, and white pants instead, and the pants. Cove happily accepted the feedback. Cove, we're getting there. He rubbed his palms again. Cove wandered around. Thole followed him. Between the three of you talking, decisions were made. In the end, Cove's final look would have a black jacket, a white jacket, no jacket, a white vest, no vest, a black, no vest, a tie, no tie, with the selections. Thole, now, to try it on. Cove nodded uneasily. It took some fumbling around and a bit of muttering, but eventually Cove came out. His expression, Cove, oh. He started, his idea knocking him. Cove, I just remembered, what if I tried having one of those flower things? Cove, you know, those flowers that get pinned to stuff? He grinned when. A corsage would be nice. It's up to you, a corsage would be. He walked over to politely. Thole. Cove. You saw Cove? Cove, can I have a corsage? Thole, we do. The assistant led Cove off to a corner. He let out a stuttering breath and stood up straight for your. Cove Cove. So, how does it look? You look incredible. I love it. Flawless. You teared up from how gorgeous it is. It's definitely nice. Can we try some? Flawless. I love it. You look incredible. Flawless. Divin. Elegant. Cove. Divin. Divin. It matches all the good adjectives in the thesaurus. He covered his eyes. Cove. Thanks. Cove flushed at your overt approval. Cove's dad, you're really grown up. Cove's dad's words were choked. Cove peered at himself. Cove, it's smooth. He stretched his lips. He turned back to you and Cove, this is it. Cove, this is what I'm going to get married in. His excitement hung in the air like a star, bright and full of energy.
Kind of matches Cove, yeah.
Divin, you better believe it.
God, that's great.
You stunning. This was better than. Thole gave a thumbs up. Thole, Thole gave a Thole, congratulate. After admiring the Thole pulled out all the arrangements of you and Cove got into his car. Cliff climbed into the back. Cove, we did it. He spoke as soon as all the car. Cove, we really did it. It's a good thing we decided to go together. You're right, both our outfits are. I can't wait to wear it for the actual. It's a good thing we. David, he snorted at your. You didn't honestly think Cove would have picked something wild if left to his own device. Feeling light, Cove checked his rear view mirror. Cove dropped his. Before he left, Cove's dad. Cove, bye. You waved at him, in the car, with the scenery flying past you, you reflected on the day. You thought back to what you had put together and felt, the image was crystal clear. Right on time,
So?
Baxter, hello. Cove, we did. Devinv, yeah, Baxter, as it should be. Baxter, what shall we be doing today? How about we just. Cove, alright. Cove's brightening, Baxter placed his hands on.
In
Baxter,
that case.
that should be a nice time. Cove, thanks. Devinv, I appreciate. After that, the rest of the session circled. One phone call, and, until then, there wasn't much else. Cove, thanks again for your help. Baxter, it's my pleasure, of course. Devinv, we'll be back soon. Baxter nodded with it. You were both on the scheduled appointment with the caterer. You were led inside the building past a seating room and it was sleek, silver, and so clean that it sparkled. That observation alleviated some. Along the back wall, you spotted a woman at a sink. Rhonda, hold on, I'll be right there. She finished washing up and Rhonda, hi, I'm the head chef and Cove. Rhonda, well, I can assure you that you've come to the right place. Rhonda, we'll also include all the plating, silverware, and glasses, but let's not get too ahead of ourselves. A bit stunned, Cove, Devinv, and my name's Devinv. Rhonda, I love it. Cove, okay, hi, Devinv, hi. Rhonda, marvelous. Rhonda, you can read it. Rhonda waved the idea of any formality with, she scooped up two in, both of you Rhonda, well, now that I've remembered that, Rhonda, you can choose to have a single menu that's consistent across the board. Rhonda, and it practically goes, Rhonda, for example. Rhonda, so what kind of menu did you two? One with no special requirement, vegetarian, halal, lacto-vegetarian, kosher. You left it all up to Cove, pelotarian. One with full-scale exclusions for taste and allergies. Rhonda, not a problem, the chef pulled out and that's the only menu style needed. And we'd like a second one that was vegetarian, halal, vegetarian, vegan. Turn, Devinv, how does that sound? Cove, I'm thinking that we have a good plan go, Devinv. Rhonda, that's the biggie already done then, Devinv. Rhonda, at the minimum there's gonna be a main entree in our service, so that's one course automatically. Rhonda, and if you're having cake or another dessert that'll technically be another course for your guests. Rhonda, although that doesn't count as one of the portions that, Rhonda, so we're looking at salad. I think we only need a 1-course meal. I feel like a 3-course meal should be plenty. Having a 4-course meal, I'd like to have a 5. Let's do the full 6-course. Cove, do you seriously mean that? Devinv, why not? Cove, wow, okay. Rhonda, in that case there's no need to select which types of extra courses you're having. The corners of Cove's mouth bent into an amused grin as he lightly, you could tell that he was getting more excited. You shared that feeling, Devinv, seriously, why bother picking between things when we can enjoy them all? Rhonda, perfection. Rhonda, perfection. Rhonda, oh. Rhonda, perfection. Devinv, seriously, Rhonda, oh. Spicy for, less spicy you looked over at Cove. Make it all spicy, the food should be burning hot. Cove met your eye. Cove, how about we keep, Rhonda, Yes, Devin. Cove's suggestion made sense, but his cheeks still reddened from your compliment. Rhonda, yawned. The chef backtracked through her notes for a second. Rhonda, what about the drinks? Rhonda, are we a just water please party, a coffee and tea group, or hard drinkers? Devin, oh, I'd like there to be sparkling water, liquors, beers, mixed cocktails, just water, whatever Cove wants. Mixed and beers, milk, liquors, coffee, tea, liquors, tea, milk, coffee, milk, fruit juices, and then sparkling water. Cove, I think we covered it. Rhonda, pleased. Rhonda, let's go deeper. Cove smiled nervously at the conversation. It took a fair bit of. By the end, Cove appeared just as relieved and Rhonda, I see that you're both settling down for a rest. Cove, oh, there's something else? Rhonda, yes, and it's called presentation. Rhonda, we can do all levels of flair for your meal. The stuff just needs to be on the plate. I'd like it if some care was put into taking extra steps to have an excellent presentation would be appreciated. You simply shrugged. I want whatever Cove want. I want whatever. Cove, well, I just think it should look nice. Cove rubbed at his arm. Rhonda, that works for us. Rhonda, so, as I started, Rhonda, our plates are white. Before you or, Rhonda, wait, give me another SEC, I'll grab some again. Cove. Yes, thank you. All right. What? You nodded casually. You shook your head clearly. An abrupt clattering came from the direction. She stepped. Rhonda spoke cheerily, almost music. Rhonda, Cove looked up. Rhonda, and there's the swirl, as promised. Rhonda, I think just the plain white is, I like the swirly one. Rhonda, got it? Rhonda, and because you're getting both the hot and cold appetizer courses, there's an extra piece to this puzzle. Rhonda, now, what we could do is just bring them out ahead of the meal and place them in front of each guest in their seat. Rhonda, we could have all the appetizers set out on a single table from the very start of the reception, so, Rhonda, or, we could even have servers walk around the room with platters of You didn't have anything to say on that. I think it would be best to leave them out on it. I would enjoy having servers walking around it makes sense to me to serve them on the table before the entree. Rhonda, right-o. Rhonda laughed happily. Cove, okay. Devin. Rhonda, it's my pleasure. Rhonda, it'll be a 6-course double menu. Cove, neat. One last quick question. Rhonda, sure thing. Cove, how do we get out of here again? Rhonda clapped her hands and let out a deep laugh. Rhonda, go down the hall and take a left to Cove, thanks. After that, it was amazing to get, the food was definitely, when you,
Hello,
folks.
Cove,
back, with all of the two of you situated yourselves on, his legs had stiffened. Baxter, on the complete opposite end of the comfort spectrum from Cove, smiled with a natural, Baxter, well, then, this is the last time we're likely to see each other. Yes. After how many meetings and appointments we went through, definitely. I am, but I'm not sure Cove is. Maybe, I am. Maybe Cove is, but yes. I'm not sure. Maybe Cove did. Baxter ran his hands.
To be
Baxter,
honest.
in all honesty, you've both done beautifully. Baxter, all you need to do now is enjoy yourself. Each line. Baxter's. Cove, thank you, Devin. That's what I like to hear. Baxter, Having broken the ice, Baxter, I've got the details for the. Baxter, the hotel is minutes from the ceremony.
Not bad.
Cove said, you remember how hard of a time the two of you had getting a room when you had come. Cove. Baxter accepted the.
Glad
Baxter,
to hear it.
I'm glad to hear that. He continued to Baxter, and I very much appreciate your great patience with the series of questions throughout this experience. I do still have yet one more topic I'd like to discuss.
And what's that, Baxter?
Baxter, when you leave here, the wedding planning is over. Do either of you have an opinion on seeing your beloved before the ceremony? Cove, that was not something. Baxter, I know some couples follow a tradition of completely cutting contact in the lead up to the wedding. Baxter, others stay apart physically, though communicate over the phone. This time Cove gave him Cove,
don't know.
I mean, Cove. He laughed breathily. Cove, are you gonna make fun of me for being clingy now?
Never.
Baxter, never. Cove, oh. You really should change your stance. Good. You really that's lucky for the both of us. You're very sweet. You patted Cove on the shoulder. You're very sweet. Cove gasped dramatic. You were charmed by both, but you made an effort to not be entirely. Cove. Would you mind staying in a separate hotel room? Cove. Would you mind staying in a separate hotel room? Cove. I wanted to share a room with you. Devin. Yeah, and I know you'll stay because you're. Cove's shoulders. Cove, you're right. Cove shuffled the balls of his. You held onto his sweet gaze, feeling great, off to the side, not wanting to ruin the moment. He spoke in a soft,
Perfect.
Baxter, very. From there, the rest of the meeting was spent going over final details. Baxter wanted to make sure you were on the same page and prepared for the events ahead. He shared amusing anecdotes of past weddings he'd planned. The most unbelievable was a story of a particular orchard ceremony from the year before. He was looking on in a final survey. The driver was unharmed when he got the truck to stop and the couple were still married, albeit in a much simpler arrangement, but Baxter distantly remembers the almost comedic surrealness of it. Seeing a completed wedding and then having it flattened back to the ground in the blink of an eye was something he never expected, or hoped, to. While the planner chuckled the stories and laughed, it reminded you of the final day of class before summer vacation. Then goodbyes were exchanged as usual, with promises to see each other soon like their. However, when you left the office, maybe you would return someday, if you and Cove decided to renew your vows and. Or maybe you could visit just as friends. Or maybe you'd try a different planner next time. Or maybe you could. Under a wide star. Cove's expression, Cove, that was, he had an internal. Cove, there's so much I want to say to you about us and what. Cove, but, it would probably make more sense if I said it during the. His voice dropped. Cove took in a deep.
Don't
Cove,
worry about it.
Don't worry about it. Pretend this didn't happen. I can wait for you. There's no way I can act like I didn't hear that. Oh, come on. You simply nodded. Oh, come on. You can give me a hint of what. You can say it whenever you're ready, if you ever are. Cove, thanks. That warmed you up inside. Cove, but, there's a lot of other things I'm thinking about too. Cove, like the fact that these are the last moments of our lives together not being married. Cove, after this I'll be your husband and you'll be my husband too. I love you. Yeah. This is just amazing. It can't happen soon enough. You were speechless. I love you. I love you. You were speechless. I love. Cove, twisting in your seat, you let the side of your face rest against the back. You rested there. The two of you, after days. It was a real. You were still half asleep and totally cozy. You were awake and feeling peaceful. You were fully awake and full of excitement. You were wide awake from nerves. You were awake and feeling peaceful. You were still half asleep and. You were still half asleep and totally cozy. You were awake and feeling peaceful. You weren't able to tell exactly how long you'd been up at that. There'd been a lot going. His shining aquamarine eyes were open. But when your gazes met, his hand moved, Cove's fingers drifted over. Of course, you'd known Cove for more than long enough to be aware that this tranquility wouldn't last, once you officially got up for the day, but for as long as it was, you were each other's. It hadn't ceased to marvel you the way sharing a bed had become one of Cove's greatest sources of comfort. Self-voicing enabled. Saved. Self-voicing disabled.
Shit. For the last.
Self-voicing in a saved screenshot as C:\program. In a soft, Cove, congratulations on your wedding. Congratulations on your wedding. Good morning. Isn't it a little early for... I'm really looking forward to seeing you in your suit today. Cove, Cove, yeah. He squished his face deeper in the pillow shyly. Cove, I'm excited to see you, too.
Alright, back to your life. Alright, back to your life.
You ran your hand, you snuggled against him, you gave his forehead, you softly kissed the tip, you leaned in and kissed him. Cove hummed sweetly, it was a lovely moment to share. But then Cove glanced past you into the distance. Cove, it's almost time. You twisted your head. Cove was right. By the forlorn look on Cove's face, he would have honestly considered standing in front of all your friends and, eventually, watching you watch him. Cove, would it be wrong to say 5 more minutes today of all day? Not at all. Yes. Yet, think of how much planning we did. Forget that planning we did and here I thought you were a morning person. You lovingly, but firmly, nudged him towards the edge of the bed. Cove gave an obligatory pout before switching back to... He flipped the covers up and pushed himself in. Cove, I'll take the other room, you can have all the space in this one to get after making it Devin, Cove, yeah. Cove's yeah what, Cove, we're getting married. The gravity of the, Cove, my stomach hurts, Devin, Cove. You weren't able, but he didn't stand still. Cove, I have to go. While you had been prepared for, driven equally from fear, his phone. Cove, bye. I love you. It'll all be okay, you can do it. Bye. Don't force yourself too hard. I love you too. Cove came around he moved away with, Cove, thanks. Then your fiancé struck. This was the last time you'd see him until you both arrived at, but thankfully, you wouldn't be apart for long. The room became, there was no, your clothes were hanging, you gave your arms, from there. Once clean and dry, you carefully took your wedding dress off. You were going to have to get dressed yourself, you were going to have to get dressed and do your hair, you were going to have to get dressed and do your hair and, you were going to have to get dressed and do your hair, but you had a stylist for your makeup. You were going to have to get dressed and do your makeup, but you had a stylist for your hair. It was, you had, during, you used the landline, you got yourself, only a, that left there, but, Baxter, hello and a very good morning, Devin, hi. Baxter, you look incredible all, Baxter.
How are you?
Everything's good here. You wouldn't happen to have a cove on you somewhere? I've got it under control. You shook your head. Everything, I've got it. Baxter, wonderful. Baxter, though, let me add, I also came in order to keep you informed on the wedding status. Devin, oh. A hopeful bent came, Baxter, yes, the status is it's ready when you are, that was music to your, with absolute earnestness,
Take
Baxter,
care.
take care, Devin, see you very soon. The light heart. You cleaned up your nails. You painted your nails. You the stylist did your nails. Your nails were long. Your nails were short. For a solid color. A pastel color. French tips with a solid color. French tip. A red, green. You placed yourself. Then there was a time the clothes. You glanced down. You grinned. You did a happy twirl. You swallowed hard. And then the moment, your wedding. Rapidly, Cove was anxious. Together you went down to the lobby. Closing your eyes, glancing out the window, it would only be a few more minutes. You were so joyful. Your peace was overcome with a building nervousness. Your peace was becoming a busting excitement. Nothing felt real. Your peace, the car couldn't, Baxter wasn't slowly. The warm rays of sun drifted down on you as beyond the chairs for guests, everything was aglow. You stood on the precipice, Baxter, Cove. Your planner had immediately been informed of your arrival.
Good
Baxter,
afternoon.
he tilted his head, as simple as the Cove's face was tight and strained. Luckily, Baxter understood completely and offered a reassuring smile. Then all presence of casualness.
Now,
Baxter, it's showtime. Baxter, guests are already.
Does
Baxter,
that sound alright?
Devin, please go down to the end of the Baxter, and speaking of Cove. He flinched at being Baxter, you'll need to go back further with me. Baxter, good luck, Devin. Baxter waved coyly. Cove's gaze remained stuck to you for as long as it could. Your heart would have gone, and you knew you'd be together again, sucking in a full, while waiting in the spotlight, footsteps, the chatter of the crowd, and your eyes closed as you strained to hear, but there was no need. Baxter returned to hush the crowd before he got out of the way. The first note was struck. Despite being together only moments, Cove held it, arm in arm with his. He was breathtaking. He was right there. You'd never beamed brighter. You were an absolute sobbing mess of him. You smiled softly with tears gathering. You were stone stiff. You watched as his mouth opened and the crowd was full of joyous smiles. All you were aware of was the fact that every step he took brought him nearer to you, and on one of those strides his knee locked and Cove stumbled. Seeing his wide-eyed expression, you barely kept yourself rooted in place. Kyra helped keep him upright and he continued, he was committed to reaching the end of the, and he made it. Kyra watched on, hard, softly, Cove's lips parted again, and finally,
Devin.
that time you knew what it was. He shifted the bouquet, he brought his head lower to be. Tears of joy, you felt overjoyed, tears of joy began to fall, you felt overjoyed, you felt tears, it couldn't be hell. A hush, certified figure, I now ask for the blanket chosen for the your mom's and certified as your family. Breathing him in, when it was time, the ceremony speech flowed over you. It was like being in a comfortable what did break through to you were Cove's bashful gestures shuffling, not one single movement went by unnoticed. Before you could completely lose yourself in Cove's gaze, your attention crystallized in an instant. It struck Cove as well because his knees visibly locked from underneath him. You instinctually grabbed onto his wrists, pulled. Cove regained control of his legs and he was still so absorbed in the moment that the notion to be embarrassed by the certified, for all his certified figure, he took in a long, after so much build-up, Cove looked into your finally,
Devin.
Cove, I had just moved to Sunset Bird with my dad. Cove, you were the person I needed when I was every far off him. Cove, you didn't let me get away with being selfish when I would act out. Cove, you were there.
Thank
Cove,
you.
I got to have a childhood thanks to you. Cove, you didn't let me lose it all because I was sad.
I'm
Cove,
so glad.
I'm still amazed how he tugged at his collar while bouncing on his feet. Cove, you told me you liked me and it was wonderful. Cove, especially my, Cove, I could barely manage sitting next to you. Cove, thank God that hormonal nightmare didn't screw things up for me. Genuine relief came out from Cove, but I don't know how. He began to get taken in. Cove shook his head. Cove, that was the time I started sneaking out to visit you. Cove, I wanted to be with you when I was happy, or when something was, with a light touch of, Cove, going on trips together, big ones and small ones, just hanging around our houses and the neighborhood, talking about who we were as people. As he continued to reminisce, he chuckled adorably.
You see, I'm so happy for COVID, Devin.
As he,
Well...
Cove, and I started getting closer with your family too. Cove, I really appreciate that you always put up with my dad and his wild plans, by the way.
Damn. It's just the words in Cove saying to Devin, it's just like, or your...
Cove ran a hand down his face tiredly, though the amused smile on his face wasn't wiped away. Cove, and speaking of wild plans, Cove, I feel bad now that I yelled at him. He wasn't trying to make things. Cove, I hated thinking about Cove, but I'm glad that I had the chance to talk to him about it.
I remember.
I can. Cove, getting my first job, taking my Cove, just trying to figure out what I was even going to do with my life. Cove, I was lost, and all I want. Cove, you were my special someone. Cove, that was when I had fallen in love. Cove, you were the first person I was able to open up to about my sexual. Cove, and you were the one who helped me keep it together when I was overthinking things. His speech of all that he treasured about you went on and on in an Cove, you'd let me have tastes of your food and Cove, you love me.
Thanks
Cove,
for waiting for me.
and you lived with how long it took for me to be able to do anything romantic. Cove, I was feeling a lot, and didn't do great at managing it. Cove, I think I'm a little more of a big boy about it now. Cove, you just. He at long last Cove, you make me happy in ways no one else ever could. Cove, and, well, a lot has happened, huh? Cove, we're definitely adults, we're at our own wedding.
It's
Cove,
okay.
we made it through it all. All the months and months growing up and through making this day happen. Cove, though with how nervous I was, Cove, but you breezed past the pressure like it was nothing. I love, Cove, you're such an admirable human being. Cove, it was the happiest moment of my life when you accepted my proposal, until now anyway. I couldn't believe you wanted to be with me as much as I wanted to be with you. Cove, I don't want to try to imagine how many tears you've wiped away for me in all these years. Cove, you helped me have the confidence to grow into a man, and you can still make me feel like a kid again. Cove, with you, nothing ever really ends, it just begins again in a new way. Cove, and, basically, what I'm trying to say is, no matter how hard I try I can never thank you enough for being, Cove. Cove, and, Cove wept heavily, no longer able to stay above the wave of emotions that opening himself up so fully had wrought.
I love
Cove,
you.
I love you. He futile, Cove, Cove. You were so touched by, you couldn't stand how sweet he, you giggled at the way he closed it out. You struggled to keep your own feelings in check, you were absolutely stunned by Cove's vows. And your eyes were glossy, and you squinted your eye, and you'd shed a tear, and you were crying too. And you squinted your eye, and you were crying too. The certified now you would have to take on the endeavor of explaining everything Cove was, you chose to say. I want to thank you. I promise. I adore. Cove, all I want is to tell who you are to me. I want to thank you. You're my beloved crybaby. You're a wonderful man. You're my precious ocean boy. And I know we were meant to be together, and you're the one I'll love for the rest of my life, and I'll be there for you no matter what. Cove, oh my God. Cove covered his face with, your certified figure nodded contently, accepting those vows as your sworn oath. Certified figure, Cove Holden, do you take Devin Moon to be your lawful wedded husband?
I forgot about the blue part.
He let his hands fall, Cove's shaking, dripping, and, in the adorably
I do.
Cove, it was absolutely heart-stopping. Certified figure, and do you, Devin Moon, take Cove Holden to be your lawful wedded husband? I do. You nodded with what he said. I do. I do. I do. You nodded with certainty. What he said, Cove's smile was, certified figure, then by the power vested in me by the state of California, I pronounce you husband and husband. Certified figure, you can now kiss. Cove's knees made. You reached for each other in a loving kiss. You kissed Cove on the cheek. Cove kissed you on the forehead. You threw yourself into Cove's arms to kiss passionately. You, waiting even, your lips connected, the beautiful after, your faces shifted away just a hair's the blanket, the crowd erupted, peeking over at Cove, you realized that he was barely paying any attention to the jubilance around you. He linked his arm around he walked by your side, he scooped you into his arms. The corner of his mouth, beaming, you loosely wrapped, you went down the aisle some were even still clapping. When you briefly came close enough to Mr. Holden, you blew kisses to the crowd. You shyly covered your face, thank you. You kissed Cove on the cheek, you smiled, you blew kisses to the crowd. The kisses you blew. After leaving, the excursion was, Cove lovingly held your face, his breath was warm on your, but you also had a feeling. When the sun began to set, and so, you and Cove took a turn down the main path. There the room filled, as the noise lessened, you began to hear various, Baxter made his way to the center, when the beginning note of your first dance song, it was slow-paced, it was moderately paced. Cove met your eyes, you heard Baxter, and now, the couple will have their, Cove did his best to, you managed everything in the dance. You did well enough for your level of dancing your feet fall. You were amazed at how, despite Cove's struggles, you were able to dance well enough. The two of you got, eventually, softly, Cove, This is the first moment to ourselves since Cove clearly was great. Cove, you're gorgeous. I am so lucky. You too. You blushed, speechless. Rather than try to find words, you focused to make sure that you kept dancing. Cove flushed a light rosy pink and Cove sighed dreamily as he looked. Cove, thank God the ceremony is over and we can just be married now. Cove, not that the wedding is bad. He winced as soon. Cove, I just kept thinking that I'd ruin something or some. Cove, at this point a truck. I feel the same way. I'm touched that you wouldn't get depressed over missing out on a meal. You pictured him, then the music that stopped your. The final note was struck and the dance ended in a spinning flourish. The dance ended with Cove dipping you. The dance ended with a bit of The dance ended with a bit of stumble. The dance ended with you both landing the final step. The dance ended in a spinning flourish. The two of you pulled each other the wind blew past. Cove's lips brushed over your. Cove, you're a really good partner. Your face felt hot. You heard a clap that steadily transferred. You bowed. You curtsied. You did your own mini celebration dance. You wiped your brow. You grinned at all the encouraging faces. You bowed. You kept your shoulders back, tilting your head back. Cove continued to watch you rather than switching his. He rubbed at the faint scar. With the first dance done, Cove offered you his arm to take once more. You took hold of his arm. You offered Cove your arm instead. You took his hand instead. You reached out, but after that he gladly let you hold on. Physically and legally linked, after only a few strokes, the two had scooted their chin, feeling awkward about having to interrupt, though realizing there's no reason to.
Hey!
Cove, hi. Snapping out of their private fervor, your parents turned the enthusiasm. You went between them to give the two a hug from. You reached over the table to take their hand. The two leaned into. After keeping. Mom, kiddos. It's great to finally get to talk to you today. Ma folded her hands together on the tabletop. Ma, congratulations to you both. Devin, thank you. Cove, yeah. Ma, of course.
They got quick though. Damn. They look like David. They look good for their age though.
Mom, the ceremony was beautiful. Mom, you sure nailed the theming. Ma, MHM, absolutely incredible. Mom, you sure nailed the theming. Ma, MHM, Devin, it's nice you noticed. Hearing people actually discuss the wedding as a real event, Cove became tongue-tied. Your ma watched over the both of you with a gaze as have fun greeting everyone else. Mom, congratulations. Ma, I love you. I love you, Mom, and I know you're hard-working grown-ups now. I love you too. Thank you so much. You're the best parent. You're lucky you have such lovely children. Mom, agreed. Cove, thanks again. Ma's fingers squeezed, while Ma attempted to not spook Cove. Mom, woohoo. Ma, Pam. Cove's gaze immediately. You gave your husband. Cove, okay. Cove scuttled off. Ma, goodbye. Mom, good luck out there. Your and Cove's moms resumed their located at the same table. His grin ran. Cove's dad, the wedding's been going so smoothly. Your Cove brightened in a similar way. His tone was full of affection. Cove, hi Dad. Hi. You walked around the table to give him a hug. It was tricky to weave through the space. Soon you had to get. Cliff slyly winked. Cove's dad, I don't have to hug you, everyone wants to see you. Cove, okay. Bye. Bye. A loud gasp escaped Cliff. Now all that was needed was to see if you'd get Cliff's own acceptance. Overwhelmed with him, Cove's dad, of course. Of course. Cliff surveyed his. Cove's dad, and listen, I just wanna say, I love both you, Cove, Dad. I love you too, you're an amazing dad. Thank you for being here all these years, Then, she was patient.
Hey.
Cove. Kyra, Hello babies. Hi. You leaned over to give her a hug, you placed a hand on her shoulder. It took some strength. You shared that.
Thanks.
Cove. Kyra, of course. Kyra, also, that was a marvelous dance. Cove kicked the tip of his shiny Kyra brows bent as she looked on it, but then she shut her eyes and, Kyra,
See you soon.
Cove. Bye Kyra, bye. Her hand flew to her mouth as, in her gentlest tone, Kyra cooed. Kyra, goodbye baby. Cove was positively melting from, Kyra, and I hope you know every moment I've been able to Cove, Mom. I love you. You're wonderful. I really appreciate that you've always supported us. You're wonderful. Kyra, and so are you. Then you had a pleasant right by was their daughter, your cousin. They were throwing looks. But when it was officially their turn, Cove shifted on his feet embarrassedly. You grinned at the two of them. You went over to hug them. You shook your head and smirked affectionately. You sighed in a teasingly long sigh. But, Liz, the day went by so fast. Lee, totally. Lee, you're both beautiful and it was just touching and amazing and, perfect.
Gorgeous.
Cove laughed airily. Cove, hello to you.
Liam, gorgeous.
Liz, MHM. Lee couldn't suppress it. Liz, to be serious for a Cove, thanks for all. Lee, you're welcome. Liz,
You're welcome.
Yes. Liz, congratulations to my good old baby brother and his special boy. Lee, go enjoy your stunning future. Cove, bye. You gave a wave farewell. See you soon. I love you too. I'm so glad you're my family. It means a lot to me to have you in my life. You know one of these days you're gonna run out of ways to tease us. Both, don't count on it. With everyone at one of the more boisterous Cove, that pleasant greeting, then the Derek,
up?
sup, Miranda, hi.
Oh, Derek.
Thank you for Terry, hey.
You know how I want
Congrats
to
you
be,
too.
Shyla.
Hello, you grinned at the group. You held out your hand for high fives. Miranda, Derek, and Terry gave your hand a slap. In a tiny voice, Miranda began to, Miranda, I wanted to say I thought your vows were beautiful.
Yeah.
Terry, yeah. Derek, it touched the whole crowd. Miranda, and you know it's cool how you were able to make a wedding that seemed fancy, but is still so comfy. Terry, oh, by the way, having the after party here on the beach. His eyes closed, Cove shyly back. Cove, thanks, Derek, come on, dude. Terry, we had to be Cove and Devin are having their wedding. Miranda, we're really enjoying the reception, don't, Cove, I appreciate that. Devin, we're greeting all the guests right now. Cove,
Bye.
Miranda, okay. Miranda,
See
Terry,
you later.
Terry, Derek, it was a sweet, Derek, though, but that isn't a goodbye. You're my best Thank you for everything. You better invite me and Cove to your wedding. Miranda, Terry, thanks, Devin. Cove skipped ahead, table, from family who flew, there was so much love, the one person you hadn't seen during your Baxter, the dance floor, satisfied that people dance more with just Cove. Go sit down away from the thick of it, dance more, dance with everyone. You happily it wasn't often that Lee, Terry, and Miranda you continued to spend the merrymaking all the action. You settled right, a waitress clad in, while setting that down at a spot on the tabletop. Server, can I get you anything else to drink? Cove, I'd enjoy some sparkling water. Can I have tea? Sir, you both thanked. They were one of the darkly dressed servers ebbed and flowed, but that wasn't where it stopped. Cove took in a satisfied inhalation. He scooped a spoonful out and dug right in. Spirit, your mom, Miranda, and Liz sounded especially pleased with how it came out. And many of your attendees made use of the extra spice that had been made available for your meal. You added a little spice. You kept it as is. You added a moderate amount. You added a lot of spice. You drowned it in spice. You added a moderate amount. It was, Mom, so, how, Mom, there's all this already and the meal hasn't even shown up. Kyra, oh. I asked, it's a 6-course meal, Mom, that many? Mom was hit with a, Kyra, my guess is that was the maximum amount. The two mothers Mom, now that sounds right. When the bowls were, the main, you and Cove, when the rest of the, you even heard very few words, when the meal was nearing its end, before you knew it, all the attendees had finished and the dishes from dinner had been swiftly, in spite of this, people were waiting eagerly for dessert. But before the big event, truly delightful trays of Mom grabbed Ma's arm as she saw what was coming, pointing at the plates, the servers vanished from the floor with him, sat on a center table. You were pleased to see, Ma, it's so charming, Terry gasped. Terry, are you really gonna cut it? Kyra, aw. Kyra's voice,
Fantastic.
Kyra, that's perfect, Lee, it's so cool that you went with gold instead of just white. Baxter beckoned for you and the two of you, together, you glanced at Cove, carefully, so as to it slid through the cake easily, with a bit of shaking, you nodded, satisfied. Cove's fingers brushed against yours as he scooped the remaining cake from the platter into his own hand. You pressed your whole hand into his face, you flung the cake at him, you rubbed the cake across both his cheeks. You frosted the tip of his nose with your fingertips. Cove watched your hand with trepidation, but you daintily tapped your fingertip on Cove, oh. Then, the frosting was cool against your skin, you tried to when Cove's furrowed brow relaxed into his, you exploded with laughter and the two of you were then both caked. Cove wiped himself off, when Cove removed the towel from his, it was good that you both happily, when you and Cove each aspect, you were just as eager to eat it. You were looking forward to having a slice, you would have a taste, but were mostly happy for Cove. You were happy for Cove, though weren't going to eat the cake. And, Liz, thank you. Derek was less blunt. Derek, you can never go wrong with a chocolate cake. Cove stopped shoveling ganache. Cove, you know, I've had a lot of chocolate white cakes over the years, but none of them have even compared to this one. You admired the cake, you closed your eyes after a few savoring tastes. By the time the meal was finished, Baxter had needed to reassure him that any remaining sections of the celebration would, Liz sung, your four parents, they spent much of the, Cove's one uncle showed off his classic magic tricks to celebrate, during the entire, you couldn't, and many guests had been generous, seafoam green towel, the most common gift, however, was the safe bet of simply giving cash. You'd never seen so many $20 bills in one place. Your family's, of course, your husband caught a glimpse of the silent amusement in your face, you'd bet money that he knew exactly what was on your mind. Baxter, good evening. This distinct voice of Baxter, the people you know are as welcome as you are. They've treated the staff, Cove puffed right, as pleasant as he, Baxter, well, I'm here to say that you've got the space for a few more hours. He pressed his hands against the, Baxter, hallelujah. But the metaphorical bell rang, and he returned promptly to provide, Baxter, you're free to simply enjoy yourselves how, Baxter, of course, I'll personally put out any fires if they do appear. Cove, Baxter's back, Devinv. Baxter ran his hand down his shirt, smoothing it out in, Baxter, your, Baxter, and congratulations on your lovely day. He then quite literally bowed out, tipping one foot. Baxter left the two of, with the staff busy and the guests mingling. You knew for certain that you could relax when you caught Cove pulling into a big stretch. His torso twisted to one side as his hands rose up as high as he was able to get satisfying reach in his arms thanks to his buttoned shirt not being complete. There was a radiant warmth in his, Cove, is there anything you want to, would you want to dance with me? I've been hoping you'd ask me to dance, could we find a quiet place to sit together? Would you want to dance with? He smiled openly, as he had in the past. You and your husband slipped, your, Cove brought his chest, though, slow. You began to sway, It felt as though you and he were in your own world.
So...
Cove. Well, Mr. Moon, congratulations, Cove, again. He slipped the last. Yes, it was highly successful. Thank you.
Thanks.
Cove, and if you're wondering, my plan is to be the last person who gets to congratulate you tonight. He waggled his. You're such a goofball. In that case, I'll cover my ears if anyone tries to You're such. You giggled. He sighed softly, and his shoulders lowered. Cove, though, I could just say it again when we get. Cove, that's one of the perks of being married. There's no one else I'd want to be my first. Me too. You beamed agreeingly. I don't know, I could always call someone. There. In his
See you tomorrow.
Oh, and I also get to say this for sure. See you tomorrow, Devinv. I'll see you tomorrow. Cove pressed. Cove seemed like he had something on his mind. You let yourself quiet. Cove. He chewed on the Cove, Devinv. There's something I want to say. The sentence Cove, I wanted to say it without crying, but your vows were so nice to hear and I loved them and simply I meant every word. Cove. Is there anything you're hoping for in our lives at Cove? We've got our place. Wanna get another pet? Well, I'm thinking we could use some company. Well, I was wondering if we could talk about starting a family. You felt? I want to adopt. I want to use a surrogate. I want to use a surrogate. For a second, instead, Cove. Oh, the word was so
right?
Cove, we can adopt a baby. Cove was panicked. You knew his heart was in the right. Devinv, let's at least wait until the wedding is over. He panted. Cove,
yeah.
Good idea. Devinv, thank you too. You let yourself quietly enjoy his. You cuddled your cheeks together. You gave every part of his face a kiss. You kissed his lips. The more you peppered against, before you felt finished, Cove's brows crinkled. He let his face come nearer to yours once.
It's
Cove,
okay.
Sorry. We've gotta wait for that. A bolt of but then you heard your husband sigh wistfully. Cove, it all went by so fast. Cove, and, now that I'm thinking about it, I don't only mean the wedding, it's everything. Where did the years go? I have no idea. I don't feel grown up. Legally, it was when we turned 18 years. I think it happened a long time ago. You, the crybaby, grown up? You didn't have an Cove, though. His spirits. Cove, I feel pretty good about getting older, not Cove, before we could only pretend to play adult, and I was bad at it. Cove, before we could only pretend to play adult. Cove, and now we're at our wedding. I know what it's like to be an adult, kind of. You just do it and keep going. Cove, I wish I could have figured that out from the beginning. No, actually, I'm glad everything went the way it did. Devinv, I am too. The song that blanketed your discussion was, it was almost time to go. Those thoughts swirled in your mind and
it's
Cove,
nice.
I think our life is really nice.
The gay reference.
Not letting either of you get lost in contemplation. Cove, you know, if you ever want to have another party like this, I'll do it. I love you, Cove. Thank you for everything. I hope you understand how much you mean to me. You bet we'll have another. If it's with you. You nodded fervently. I love. Cove let his hand. Cove, what did I do to get to be with someone who's. Cove, well, I don't need an answer, really. I'm just grateful.
I love
Cove,
you.
I love you too. Saved. Our life. 1.6.3. Self-voicing disabled.
Guys, this will be the end of our life. The end of the wedding for our life. And it was a wonderful our life wedding. So let's be the end, officially end of our life, the wedding episode, the wedding thing, the wedding season. And thank you for watching. And Bye. Thank you for watching, and always remember, have unpleasant dreams, and have a happy, lovely day. Also, for those who have been asleep during the night in any world, and wherever you are in the world, don't forget, I'll always be watching. I'll always endure. I'll always be here for you to enjoy. And thank you for watching Our Life. And thank you for watching me play Our Life. And bye. I hope you enjoy me playing Our Life, and thank you for watching. And I will always be here for your enjoyment.